Good morning, Clackamas County. We are here on the June 26, 2024 policy session with the Board of County Commissioners and Clackamas County. And Gary, what's up?
Thank you, Vice Chair West. Chair Smith is out of the office today. Vice Chair West will chair the meeting. All other commissioners are present. Your first policy session is American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, funding reallocation. Nancy Bush, County Operating Officer, will present. And their memo is pretty self-explanatory, and Nancy will review it with you. Go ahead, please, Nancy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Am I on? Okay, thanks. So just a couple things before we dive into what is going on here. Our ARPA dollars, just for the public, of course, we got about 81 million. We have gotten most of that out of the door. Most of that is obligated, which is really good news. However, just for different circumstances, there are some things that we weren't not able to get or obligated, which means that has to be in contract, fully signed, which is almost $4 million, which in the big picture is not really that much money. So I'm really happy. I think that the projects you all approved have been really good ones and have moved forward. With these dollars that we're looking at today, I just want to remind you of a couple things. First of all, they do have to be obligated by the end of December of 24, or the Treasury will take them back. So as we look forward, and what you have in front of you, these are projects that have to be, or that we do know that can be done quickly. We do know we can get them into contract quickly. We don't have time to do new projects. We don't have time to explore new projects. Some of the things that you said that you wanted to do last year, it took us a year to do. So just keep that in mind. ARPA is great and complicated, so we want to stick with things that we really know. So what we have here for staff recommendation is the Recovery Center purchase, which I believe you had a discussion about that yesterday. A little over $1 million is suggested to go to that. C-800 replacement of 2 generator towers, which is in the rural part of the county. We already have an agreement with them for some other items that they used ARPA on, so we'd be able to get that into that agreement very quickly. The roofing for the Wichita Center at $1 million. And technology services for more cybersecurity and resilience there is $590,000. And the county surface roads, we have $1 million, which would go into some projects that are already moving, and we will be able to get that into contract quickly as well. So that is staff recommendations, and I'm open for questions.
I will entertain any questions or comments from the board. Commissioner Schull, you're up.
Yes, thank you, Nancy, for that information. On the $200K for the C-800 project, can you tell us, is that going to be the last that we're going to need to provide funding for that project?
I will say, as far as I know, yes.
Okay.
They have finished up the other projects that we have given them, and this would be the last part of that.
Okay. And the second question was, I see that $668,000 of this money that needs to be reassigned came from the OSU Extension Center. Mm-hmm. Why weren't they able to utilize it?
So that was for construction, and their construction is not going to be starting until much later, so they weren't able to use that. The good part of that is that they have been saving for that building, and they continue to save for that building, so they do have a lot of cash on hand.
Yeah,
so that is a good part of that.
Okay, good. Well, your recommendations, these 5 uses for this $3.8 million, looks like a good idea to me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Nancy, can you give me a little more detail? I'm sorry.
Are you okay? Go ahead.
On a career restart services workforce training. What is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're looking at the list.
Yeah.
So the Career Restart actually was something you just signed very recently. Mm-hmm. So that is also a program. We're working with Clackamas Community College on that particular program.
Okay.
And it's, like as through COVID, there have been a lot of people who lost their jobs and they need, training and helping finding new jobs. So that is that program to help develop those.
Okay. I was just wondering why it didn't go to like Clackamas Workforce Partnership. I went,
I know they're part of the process. This is in
Oh, they
social
are part-
services.
they are
I
part of it.
believe they are. This is in social services, so I don't have a lot of detail, but I do know that you signed off on the contract for Clackamas Community College. But
Okay.
I'm sure they are. I can find that out for sure.
okay, thank you.
Commissioner Salvis.
Yeah, I mean, no detail needed, Nancy, but my question is, of the 81 million, there were categories in which dollars were eligible to be applied. But not, the $81 million wasn't divvied that way. It's up to us. We had the whole bucket of 81 million, and we could find in which way we could plug it in.
Correct.
With the correct
Yes, there were
criteria.
5 areas, and that is correct.
Right, okay. That's all I had.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any further comments or questions for Nancy? No. I don't have any, so I don't seeing none. Gary, what's up?
Would you please make a motion to approve then? Option 1, I think, is the right option.
We can do
Yeah.
that. Anybody would like to make a motion?
I move to approve the American Rescue Plan Act funding reallocations as briefed this morning to include $1,039,890 for the Recovery Center purchase, $200,000 for the C-800 2 generator replacements, $1 million for the roofing for Wichita Center, $590,000 for the technology services for cybersecurity, and $1 million for the county road services.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. We have a motion from Commissioner Schull to approve the reallocated dollars for ARPA funds for a total reallocation of $3,829,890. We have a second from Commissioner Schrader. Any discussion or comments? I'll just say this. I think this is a fantastic reallocation. I think these are targeted priorities for the county. I know that this is complicated, but also we're thankful for it despite its complication. Both things are true today
is
about
true.
ARPA funding.
Absolutely.
And we have a recovery center purchase. We have the C8 replacement for the 2 generator towers in rural county. That's a priority. The roofing to be replaced in Wichita Center, which we will probably be talking about later tonight, which is exciting stuff, the selling of that property, technology services, and county surface roads. So with that, I will call the vote if there's no further discussion. Seeing none, please call the vote, Tony.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Schull.
Aye.
Vice Chair West.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Good work, everybody.
Thank you.
Vice Chair, can we take a short break? You're way ahead of schedule. We'll get staff here early for the next session, but can we take a short break?
Absolutely. I'm going to recess for 10 minutes.
Yes,
We'll
please.
recess for 10 minutes.
Thank you.
We are back from recess. We will continue our.
Is your mic on?
No, it's not. Everybody's mics on?
There we go.
Commissioner Savas. We are back from recess and to our policy session here on June 26, 2024. Gary, what's up?
Thank you, Vice Chair. The next session is Office of Economic Development, Membership Dues, and Non-Competitive Grants. Presenting are, today, from Transportation and Development and the Office of Economic Development, Laura Edmonds, the Manager of Economic Development, and Sarah Ekman, the Assistant Director of Transportation and Development. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. We are here today, as Gary said, to talk about dues and memberships and non-competitive grants, which are things that we pay for from the State of Oregon lottery dollars. You'll find in your packet on the 4th page, there's an attachment A, which is a spreadsheet summary of the membership dues and the non-competitive grants that we're going to go over. The first piece is the membership dues. This is a slate that we bring forward to you each year and you approve after you review and recommend it. Laura is going to go through what the details of that are. In general, we are recommending a continuation of funding at the same dues and membership rates, with one exception that she'll elaborate on. We also have included in the table a list of the approved competitive grants that you've already approved, and that, just as a quick refresher, is the workforce development grants with the college and the business development grant program that we're working on. And she has some great, exciting stuff to share about both of those. The last piece she's going to go over is the non-competitive grant awards. The amount that we've retained for this program is $250,000. So you'll see, and she'll talk more about this, we had request amounts from the organizations who've put forward their requests, which are the Arts Alliance, the Regional Arts and Culture Council, and the Historical Society, that we've listed their requested amounts, and we've also listed some recommendations for funding. And that's to bring that total funding amount in line with that $250,000 that we've retained. So Laura's going to talk in a bit more detail about what some of those recommendations are.
Okay. Good morning, Vice Chair, Commissioners, Administrator Schmidt. Pleasure to be here as usual. So I'll just jump right into this since sounds like we've got a short period of time. So when we look at the recommendations for the membership dues, we are recommending the continuance of the standard dues renewals for all of the chambers and business associates, alliances and associations, with the exception of Greater Portland Inc. We do recommend that we reduce that down to $12,000. Our recommendation is such that we continue our engagement with them at the staff level because we are gaining a lot of great value from that relationship. We work with them I'm on their business advisory council, as well as my whole team works very closely with the economic development professionals committees. So it allows us opportunity to still engage at the local level with all other economic development professionals so that we can glean from them and some of the great progress they're making in their own counties and cities. So that's a really great opportunity. And we wouldn't have access to site selectors for international and national companies looking to move into the region without this relationship. So it really does, we use it, we leverage it, and I think that for the reduction of the $12,000, to maintain $12,000 still gives us that access that is very necessary for our team. So that's the reason for the recommendation. The $25,000 level had actually been to solidify a board position, which I believe Commissioner Schrader had sat on, and we don't require that at this point in time.
Save the money.
Save the money?
Save the money.
Can I interject a question?
Of course.
So we still maintain a board position at 12,000?
No,
We do not.
we do not.
Okay, can you reiterate again what we got for our money previously and what we're getting now by cutting it in half?
Well, the $25,000 allowed a guaranteed board seat.
Okay,
The $12,000, if we chose to apply for a board seat, we could still at that level. But what the $12,000 gives us is the access to the rest of the committees, the Business Advisory Council and the Economic Development Professionals Committees. And so that's just that level of access. Plus, they also provide marketing assistance, and there's a number of other professional services that we can go to them for services and research analysis, because they have access to something like 6 to 7 different systems that allows us. Plus, we have access to the site selectors and special invitation to events when we're working with we recently sat through a forum and discussion with real estate developers and executives that were looking to develop new opportunities in the region for specific industries that are looking to move into the Pacific Northwest potentially.
who makes up the board now? Are the other tri-counties, the members of the tri-county on the board? Is Vancouver, does it go into Clark County? Are other cities actual board members? What's the impact of us not being on the board?
The board makeup pretty much identify, and I don't have that in front of me. I apologize, I wasn't expecting that question, so I can get that for you. But the board members that I am aware of are, they're from educational institutions, they're from other counties, cities, businesses. So it's a makeup of different organizations. I think PGE has a member on that board. There's a number of people. But the board is making operational decisions for GPI.
Okay.
And so it's the committees, it's the committee engagement that actually gets down into the business discussions and the actual business development
Okay.
and opportunities.
I guess I'll ask Commissioner Schrader and you this. Do we lose anything in our priorities by not being on this board? Do we lose influence in this influential organization by not being on the board now? Is it weird that we're not on the board? What are your thoughts?
Well,
Commissioner Schrader?
my thoughts are, I think we're in an environment where, we want to be careful with the dollars, and what we really gain the value from GPI is the technical assistance and piece that Laura described. Yes, it would be nice for one of us, doesn't have to be me, by the way, to be on the board, but like Laura said, a lot of it is operational, a lot of it's networking, a lot of it is the work that you do to put together the comprehensive economic development plan. It's kind of that larger visionary work, and that's all readily available anyway. I really, if someone else wants to be on the board, go ahead. But I think that if we need to save the money, which I think we do, and we're still going to get that same level of service that's necessary for us to be functional, that's fine. I think it's.
Do you plan to still apply to be on the board, or is that not an option now?
I think we'll wait and see. I mean, right now, I don't need to, I'm not overly concerned about it. I know all those folks anyway, quite frankly.
Perfect.
I mean,
Okay, Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I guess another way of looking at it is that what has this extra position or board position done for us historically? And it sounds like, listening to Commissioner Schrader, which I trust her experience, knowledge, and comments and instincts, it doesn't sound like this is, this is going to be much of a handicap for us at all.
no, I don't think so.
So I'm willing to go with the staff recommendation.
Terrific. Okay, Gary?
Tony looked on the website. Thank you, Tony. So the Greater Portland Inc. Board currently is mostly business representatives, as Laura mentioned. However, there is a seat from Washington County Commissioner, Clackamas County Commissioner, Multnomah County Commissioner, the City of Portland Mayor, and the City of Vancouver Mayor, and a Metro Councilor. Now, I don't know how many of them are paying the dues versus just applied to the board, but there are those elected people currently on that board.
There are, but it's spotty too. I mean, I think Ted Wheeler's been on it for a while, and I've never seen him in a meeting. So, I mean, I think most of that is, courtesy spots, to be honest. I mean, again, I think we should try it this way, and if we want a seat at the board in the future, we can reevaluate. They're fine. And if somebody else wants to
Still
take it.
apply, we can still apply. There's 3 board seats that are designated for this level of membership. And
Oh,
we can still
okay.
apply for a board seat to be considered, should we want to, at the $12,000 level. It's just that,
Let's do it for a discount.
yeah.
I love a good
Yeah,
coupon.
I would, actually, I would probably, we could do that if that's possible. Let's do that, yeah. I think that the money you have is pretty precious, and I think you've been really diligent with it. And as an economic development professional, we need to trust your judgment and you as colleagues, your judgment as to what's best for
Okay,
everyone.
perfect. Please continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just as, and Sarah mentioned it, so we're looking at the previously approved competitive grants, so the $100,000 for the workforce development to CCC, $600,000 for the business development grants. And just a quick update, we are in the middle of working on our grant manual. So that is in progress, so we'll be having some drafts that we're continuously working on. So that is proceeding as expected, and we're meeting our timelines on those deliverables so far. And then on the non-competitive grant awards, let's roll right into that. So as you know, Willamette Falls Locks Authority, this is a 3-year commitment that you had already determined for the $40,000 investment for 3 years. We've paid 1 year thus far. This will be the second installment for the $40,000. And then in 25-26 will be the last installment. Then so currently we are funding the Arts Alliance and the Museum of Oregon Territory. And the requested funds were the $150,000 for the Arts Alliance, the $96,000 for RAC, $100,000 for Historical Society. Based on the remaining balance for the fiscal year 24-25 session, we have $250,000. So based on that, our recommendation was to reduce the Arts Alliance request down to $110,000, fund Historical Society moot at the $100,000 ask, and then, of course, with the $40,000. But the recommendation not to fund RAC at this time, and consider some options later should you wish to bring it back. And I don't know if you want the reason for that recommendation. So you tell me what you want.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Laura.
Okay.
So, yeah. So,
Yeah, please continue.
okay, so basically, after having a conversation with the team at RAC, it was determined, my determination was based on that conversation on June 16th, that at present time, at that time, they had little to no other commitments for funding that would provide any form of match that they generally do. The NEA funds that they did have, they were ARPA-related, they're gone, they were extinguished last year, and primarily to Washington County, from what I was told. And then, as of right now, they don't have any funding commitments from any of the foundations or the state that they generally would get for match funding. With that said, they do, since that meeting, they've confirmed that they do have Washington County, City of Portland, and Multnomah County that will be funding them in their grants, but those grants are to be used directly within those parts of the region. Just like any grant we would award them would be used just for Clackamas County. So at present, the $96,000, they would take their administrative fee off the top of that, which is an estimated 20% now, I think is what their letter says. And the remaining balance, then they would allocate to grants, and again, of which they have no match funding to be able to enhance that program. So I would recommend that we do not fund them at this time, and we wait to see if they get stabilized by additional funding.
Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, good morning. Question on the proposed membership dues. Now, as I look down the dues amount for the different chambers of commerce,
Vastly
there
different.
seems to be a big disparity there. So are these recommended amounts for FY '24-25? What are they based on? I mean, I see Estacada down there at $120 for the year. How is that determined?
That's a great question. So dues are established by the very organization.
Okay.
So it's their established dues levels
Okay.
based on their membership.
Well, I got to tell you, I appreciate the city of Estacada operating with austerity out there. Next question is on the recommended 600, I see it says approved, 600,000 for the business development grants. What is the return on investment looking like for those investments in the business development grants?
Well, that's a really good question. And until we actually develop the grants and the businesses apply for them, we won't have that data until we understand which businesses and what programs or projects they're looking to use for those funds. So it could be for an industry, and they're traded sector, industries only for this grant program. That's what you approved in April. And so we have to wait to see who applies and what programmatic deliverables they anticipate with this.
But in previous years, though,
We've never done this program.
this is brand new?
This is brand new.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. Okay, thank you.
It's a pilot, so we're excited about it.
Yeah, okay,
So, yeah.
good. Thank you.
I have some thoughts. One, I'll start with business development grants at 600,000. A lot of our concern and focus has been around workforce issues. And will this 600,000 support trying to increase and bolster our workforce in different sectors in Clackamas County?
Yes. So it will, if the business is intending to use it for that purpose. So they can use it for investment in expanding their market share by developing additional products or services. They can use it for employment, their workforce growth. Say they're looking at new technologies implementing into their business, and they can use that for training and advanced technologies for their workforce. So this is pretty open.
Okay.
It is going to be based on the unique needs of the business who is applying, and then there'll be specifications around how, right, for reporting and proof of and validating that investment, and then the impact to their business will be shared at the end of the program as well. So you'll be able to know exactly, you will, exactly how they invested the money, because they have to provide a scope of work in advance with their application. So we'll know ahead of time what their intended purposes are.
Okay.
So it's about, really the grants are about retention, expansion, growth, attraction of businesses that might be looking to move into the region, and then workforce development and growth. Yeah,
Okay, let's talk about the arts.
okay.
Are you ready, Commissioner Schrader? Okay, on June 13th, I met with RAC, had a long meeting with them. And it's no secret that from this dais, I have been an advocate for that organization. And one of my biggest points is that they would bring $1 into Clackamas and it would turn into $3 because of all the other matching dollars. It was clear to me now that is not possible with RAC to do that. So RAC, if we were to give them $96,000, would take administrative expensive cost off the top and then give our money back to us as a pass-through with no additional benefit. RAC seems to be quite unstable at the moment and has recently laid off a large portion of their workforce. I know they're taking a contract with Portland, but it's less revenue through Portland than they had traditionally received. I know that there are significant and severe budget constraints in Washington County, so I don't know how stable that funding is. A lot of their traditional funding seems to have dried up. There's a big shift within their leadership and executives at RAC. I remember asking him, I was like, I need you to bring value to my county and I'll work to to help the arts in Clackamas County. You guys have traditionally supported a number of very significant organizations that have deep roots within our communities here in Clackamas, and I value that, but they could not articulate any value they could actually bring back to Clackamas County at this time. They weren't prepared for tough questions about how to get stable moving forward to look at them again. They looked at me for an hour like deer in headlights a little bit, to be honest. And so I am going to back away from my advocacy for RAC today with that money. So I agree with your recommendation regarding what has happened with RAC. That doesn't mean in Clackamas County we don't, at least I'll speak for myself, I'll speak for Martha Schrader too, really support the arts and want to find ways to use maybe this funding locally. And so here's my idea, and I would love the board's thoughts on this. I'd like us to take $100,000 and create our own in-house grant program. Now, I've heard about the Clackamas County Arts Alliance as an organization. I feel like they're getting stable footing, and we appreciate them, but I don't know if they're, at this time, the best administrator of these funds for a grant program in Clackamas. I don't know that. Maybe we need some education on that. But I do think $100,000 for organizations that I will list a few that I deeply care about, that I believe are economic drivers that should be supported by us and need our support, are the Lakewood Theater. They do more than just theater, but they do very high-class community theater. They do large fundraisers for the community, big, huge art festivals, and community events in Clackamas, and they should continue to find a way to support them. There is the Charbonneau Arts Festival, which is a large arts festival that works directly with youth and provides Clackamas County scholarships for the youth that I think that we should potentially be supporting. The Oregon Music Hall of Fame is in West Linn. If you drive by you drive down in West Linn, you'll see the big Janis Joplin stained glass window. It's quite beautiful. But I know they got RAC funding that allowed them to build studios for the kids to learn how to do mix music and do music technology. And they foster kids and low-income children get free music lessons. The Music Hall of Fame's in there. It's a beautiful property. They do amazing work around music. We need to remember these organizations and help them, in my opinion. I think it brings a lot of value back to the community.
I'm going to add one more.
Yeah.
Clackamas Repertory Theater is another, actually,
Organization.
group organization with Clackamas
But
Community
those are just a
College.
handful of, I don't want to forget these artists as we have to make a shift because RAC doesn't have the stability to focus, I believe, anymore on Clackamas County's interests here, but we should not forget them. I know we have at least $100,000 here. I'd like us to maybe figure out an in-house grant program that looks at the previous funding that they received and work with these organizations, maybe some others, not just the ones we mentioned, but there could be others we're not aware of, and see if we can help them through these lottery funds. So I don't know, I'll open up, I have a couple more thoughts on some of this stuff, but I want to open that up to what you guys, see what you guys think here at the board, and see if we can make a transition here to be supportive. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, we covered some territories. I'm going to go at them one by one here. So the $600,000 development grant conversation, that's something we already talked about the last time we were here and approved. So, and if you remember, if anything, I was thinking we got to put more in there. But I'm fine with the 600,000. So just want to remind everyone that we had already approved that. The other thing with regards to RAC, appreciate the changes and the homework you done, Commissioner West. I too have concerns now that you have covered the latest here and why. So I understand that. As far as the extra 100,000 for those that you have just cited and rolled off, I would just think about this for a moment, step back and think, should we or should we not be the agent to do that? And I think that if we start picking our own favorites, it puts us in a difficult position. And what if there's an agent out there, I don't know, CCAA could possibly do that, help us with that. And that way it's neutral, and because we can give something to someone, but we're always going to find there's other people that say, well, you forgot about me. You didn't mention me. I watched the meeting. So I'd be afraid that if we don't do it in really a fair, equitable process and have it, so to speak, advertised, I think we'll make more enemies than we'll make friends.
I don't disagree with that. Whatever the appropriate process is, I just wanted to highlight important organizations in Clackamas County that will need the support. And that will most likely probably want to apply for some type of support. So I'm not picking, winners or losers or favorites, and you are right, that's not the role of the board.
Right.
We have to be fair to everybody.
And our staff's really not geared to do that as well. And I think having an independent party, like maybe if Clackamas County Arts Alliance could do that and hold that $100,000 for that one particular purpose, they might be the right agent. I don't know.
I guess my concern is that they're relatively new also, I don't know their experience level with this. I super appreciate them. Gary, what are your thoughts about how we move forward maybe with how to do this?
Thank you. My memory is when the Clackamas Arts Alliance director spoke to you a year ago, she said, my memory is they're not eligible or able to do a grant distribution process. That's my memory, because you had talked about giving the RAC money to them instead.
Right.
So I certainly think we should invite her back, or for us to talk more about what are they able to do or not. I certainly agree an external party doing this is much better than our staff and you making grant decisions. You may want, I'm going to throw this out, you may want to consider reducing the amount of funds you give the Arts Alliance and instead have a grant program that perhaps they administer. There's a lot of moving parts here that I would like staff to come back to you with some recommendations before you make a final decision on what that grant process could look like, including engaging with the Arts Alliance to see what they're able to do or not.
I appreciate that. I want us to be diligent as a county to make sure that we set something up correctly, and that will last moving forward. That we support business, but there's a place for that also with the arts, and so that's however we address it. I want to make sure that there's confidence within the arts community that we're doing this the right way. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes. Of course, this morning, we're looking at the economic development dues and the non-competitive grants awards. Laura, if for this idea about $100K for grant funding, later in the year, would it be possible, if we looked at this issue and how we might put it together, would it be possible later in the year to strip out $100K from lottery funds? Or are we committing ourselves this morning to what you present, to commit lottery funds through the FY 24-25?
I'll answer that. So you've already adopted the budget for next fiscal year, which includes the lottery dollars as a whole. So you can make decisions on how to distribute the lottery dollars any point during the year, today or later.
Okay.
I will say, to be fair, so staff, as you may recall, I don't want to get into a lot of budget details. They have a significant carryover fund balance for lottery dollars, around $5 million. By your approval of the business development grants, that reduces the amount available for these non-competitive grants. I certainly want to have money to fund the Office of Economic Development. So the more money you give for non-competitive grants, it's totally your choice. It's going to reduce the carryover fund balance quicker, which means we may run out of money to fund staff in about 4 years. But I'm not saying you shouldn't do this, but those are budget discussions we can have with you later.
Okay, so I think we ought to just stick with what's presented here today. And by the way, I like your assessment and your recommendations here. I think we ought to go ahead and approve that and then ask the county administrator to take some time in the coming months to look at the possibility of examining the idea about the 100K grant fund, but not today.
I have a couple more comments on this. The Clackamas County Business Alliance and the West Side Economic Alliance, could you please explain to me what value they bring back to the county for the dollars spent there?
Okay, so,
And more specifically stands out to me is the CCBA.
all right, so Clackamas County Business Alliance is just that. They're another business alliance, much like a Chamber of Commerce, that provide forums, government affairs conversations, and they're kind of with a regional perspective. So when you look at them, we get the same value from them as we do one of the chambers of commerce because of the events and the opportunities to go to a public forum to be able to hear on specific topics like the agricultural conversation we were all present at, right? So when you look at that, they're just another organization that are providing those services. They also provide, when there's legislative advocacy required, and there's letters that might be needed for legislation, ballot measures, those kinds of things. They also are one of the organizations that provides that support to our PGA team, Public Government Affairs, acronyms, trying to remember that. And so they're another organization that provides that professional service to us. And then we also engage then in conversations. I participate in their government affairs calls to be able to hear firsthand what's going on with the businesses that are present at that table. For what that's worth.
It seems like a lot of money if they're basically a chamber that does a policy arm attached to it, compared to the other larger chambers of $1,300 a year and $1,200 a year. I'm having a hard time understanding the $10,000 jump for the duplicative services, maybe.
Yeah, it's their membership dues threshold. It's where they set their membership dues based on the kind of organization. So for a government organization, the minimum dues is $10,000. Last year, we had a very similar conversation to this, and we talked about potentially reducing, but there's not a reduction option. As a government entity, the dues are set at $10,000. For the chambers might even, look at taking some increases right now. Like North Clackamas Chamber, I've heard are going to be taking a dues increase. We don't know what that is or looks like yet because our
It's
renewal.
not $10,000.
So, but it's not 10,000, no, but we don't know what other chambers might reset at.
So we went
don't
to
know.
this last event,
Yeah.
and we talked about agriculture. It was a lovely event with maybe 15 people in it, with a PowerPoint. If we're trying to find money for where I think money what might be better used, in my opinion, I could look at these different dues and say, making sure that kids have free music lessons, and that you can go to an affordable play and Lakewood Theater stays up, and where thousands of our constituents go, and tons of businesses generated. I don't think that the Clackamas County Business Alliance generates nearly as much as the arts do. I just don't. If it's a chamber, I don't know if that's, and I don't understand how West Side Economic Alliance generates real buzz and revenue and in the community. I don't know.
So West Side Economic Alliance, when we as we analyze the value in the membership there, it's because we are able to go to the table for regional and state level conversations on land use, housing. So public and government affairs, when we look at some of the work that we're doing around land use, land, analysis and planning and the housing conversations, the WEA right now is kind of at the forefront of a lot of those conversations, tolling. So what they're doing is they're, as far as an alliance goes, or a chamber or a business organization, they're having those higher level conversations and allows us to be at the table on those committees and being engaged in state level conversation. And so it's government, it's government officials, it's businesses,
Doesn't our
it's.
PGA do that?
PGA is engaged with them, yes.
Don't we have a
And-
department that does all of that?
We do. This is a longstanding, you have this discussion every year, commissioners. In many years, we were not a member of the West Side Economic Alliance. The CCBA, you've been debating for 20 years. This is really a political policy.
It's just almost $20,000 I'm trying to scrape some money to support longstanding community arts programs, which I firmly believe are economic drivers.
I get that, and I appreciate that. So this is an ongoing debate. Where's the value? With WEA, again, it allows us to be, so our team, Economic Development, as we grow, we are looking for the right, we want to be at the right place, having the right conversations to be able to make educated decisions on the development for Clackamas County. So when we look at it this way, that's where the placemakers, the people that are having those conversations are at that table. It's kind of, it's just like GPI. We're at the table because we're having conversations about the future development of business and workforce, and what are the industries, the emerging sectors and industries that are looking to be able to move into the region that are going to create those new opportunities. So for us, if we look at those two memberships, I would say that's where the bulk of my time is spent, is at those tables.
Yeah.
Because we're hearing firsthand the difficulties, the challenges, and the opportunities. And it actually has opened opportunity for me to even sit down with the Bruce Colemans of the world for a city of Sherwood, right? Economic development genius. I've gotten the introduction to some of those other professionals because of these relationships.
Okay.
And so for us, if we're going to invest our time and money, that's really the value we get out of it. It's being in those conversations and being invited to the table.
I thank you I totally appreciate that feedback. That's really well stated. I just continue to see often that, like, arts are just so undervalued, and it's like the first thing that we just don't want to fund or be serious about often. And I just fundamentally disagree with that, and the benefit of some of these organizations. And so I'm almost to a yes on this proposal. For me, and I know there's some more comments, I just want to make sure that we take some of these dollars, and I think out of this entire budget, $100,000 is nothing to create some type of programming to support the arts. I don't know who was first. I'm sorry. I'm going to call on Commissioner Schrader, and then Paul, you're up.
So my suggestion is that we have a conversation with the Clackamas County Arts Alliance, because if we have a direction that we want to go, and they are our local arts agency and are asking us for money, I think it's valid for us to say, but these are our expectations. So I agree with you. I feel the same way about the arts. But maybe that conversation is about their table, and we gave them quite a bit of money for the courthouse. Yep. I'm not, and I've been to those meetings. I'm not sure. I'd like to get what a return on investment was for that. I mean, I know we're going to have some beautiful artwork. Paul and I have been involved, but I'm unclear as to whether it was Nancy doing most of the work or the Clackamas County Arts Alliance, I mean, I'm not saying that they didn't, I just don't know, because they're a nonprofit, and we haven't had as much transparency as I think we should have, giving that large amount of money. I don't know if the chair feels this way, but I kind of worry about it, because that's a boatload. And I also think for $110,000, where's the expertise to go ahead and contact the NEA? I mean, that's something that should be thought about, running it as a business, okay? And the other thing is, I'd like to say I've always been a big supporter of Moot, too. But I don't know, I haven't been involved in their board for quite a while, and they have consistently had sustainability issues. So for some of these monies that we're giving, we need to really do our homework and say, what is the return on investment? Not just have them be legacy projects because, well, I mean, it's uncomfortable, right? I always want to support the museum. I think they're critical to what we do too, but they have to operate under the constraints that we have to operate under in terms of where we're going to allocate dollars, I guess. But that's just my comment with that, and I'm really not trying to throw stones. I'm trying to find the money too, but if that's the return on investment we want, and they're the arts organization, we ought to just.
I just don't know if they have the capacity, the experience.
That's right.
Or the
Yeah.
ability to be engaged in the way we need them to be here.
And that's what I'm worried about too. Okay,
Yeah.
that's because we're talking about an arts expectation for this county about what we want to have the money go for. And if we have an alliance that doesn't have we may have to have a conversation with them about what we need to have happen.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, so first of all, I know you all know this. I just want to make sure anyone watching this knows that this is not general fund dollars. These are lottery dollars, and they're not constrained. And therefore, economic development, they have a specific purpose and to stimulate economic activity. So that's the goal. I would say that when I was a business owner and I had business organizations that I attended or was a member of and I paid dues for, I didn't necessarily think or expect that I would get a return on my investment. I didn't look at it that way. It was a cost of doing business. It was a cost of getting exposure. It's kind of intangible, but it's a cost of doing business. So when I look at things like this, and I heard what Laura said, I don't disagree. You got to realize that all organizations right now, including CPOs, the membership and attendance is way down. That's not necessarily by looking at the people in the room, and I think there were more than that many people there, Ben, but, and past events as well, but I don't think that's a metric right now that tells the whole story. And I think Laura, as she was describing that, was trying to inform all the other things that are ancillary to that and all the other connections. So being at the tables, I think these organizations in total do that. They're not like a chamber of commerce, and it is more legislative. They've had, state legislators there. They've had mayors there. You were not there at the mayor's event there. I thought that was a pretty good event that the CCBA did. So I just want to just advocate that don't look at it as a return on investment because, some of it might be. You might have some tangibles, but on something like this and the small amount of money it is, and that fact that it's lottery money, it's not general fund, I would look at it a little bit longer, study a little bit more. I just suggest that my suggestion here today is we just approve what's before us today and explore the $100,000 idea as far as feeding more money into the Arts Alliance once we establish that there's an organization or a means to do that, and then bring it back.
Let me ask the board this question. Are we all in agreement that we're not funding RAC?
Yep.
We all agree that we're not. Just like whenever we move forward with on this plan, we're removing that from this plan at a minimum, correct? Okay.
And it's not in there. That's why I said it as is.
It does say regional arts culture, and it has it listed down here as but because we had been talking about it. So I just want to make sure that's clear. Commissioner Scholl.
Okay, regarding the Clackamas County Historical Society, over the last few years, some of their board members have been in here to talk to us, and it became quite evident that without that $100K support from this program, that they would most likely have to close their doors. Because the amount of money generated there is not sufficient to provide for their operational needs, plus a little bit left over to provide some security in their budget. So without this money for moot, we probably would be seeing them close their doors in a relatively short amount of time. And then again, on the 100K grant thing, you know, there's been some examples of entities that might benefit from that, but we also have to remember that just about every town in our county has got a theater company. Boring does, Sandy does, Estacada does. So there's a lot of people out there, a lot of organizations out there that could benefit from this. And so if we're going to do this, we're going to need to have some kind of committee that's going to be able to look at everything and make a grant based on some sort of fairness. So again, today, I think we ought to just go ahead and approve what's before us. I like it. One last question, though. Total funding recommended FY 24-25, $989,262. Now, is that, do you have a picture in FY 24-25 on total lottery dollars that are coming in? Do you know that yet? Do you have a close estimate?
We have a forecasted budget.
You do?
Which is
Yeah.
based on historical, so it's still a guess. Because
Yeah.
that's what budgets are, right? You're supposing. So we're anticipating 2.4, that's our budget estimate
I
based on
see.
historical
Okay.
income received through the lottery, our portion of it. So our budget is 2.4.
Okay, so we have some potential there to look at this grant idea later on in the year. Okay, thank you very much.
I move that we approve option 2, direct staff to approve membership dues as recommended by staff, including Greater Portland, Inc. at $12,000, Moot at $100,000, CCAA at $110,000, and do not provide funding to RAC at this time, and to direct staff to explore an additional $100,000 for arts if they can find an agent to do that.
Seconded.
I have a motion from Commissioner Savas. That is on the record. I will not repeat it. And I have a second from Commissioner Scholl. Do I have any further discussion on the motion before us? I think it does a good job capturing our conversation and deliberation here today. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to come to some kind of resolution for $100,000 to support the arts in Clackamas County and all the other organizations before us. Thank you so much. Tony, can you please call the poll?
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
All right.
Vice Chair
Aye.
Vice Chair West.
No problem. Aye. Motion passes 4-0. What's up, Gary?
Great, got it. We'll come back to you with a plan for the 100K for arts. That is your last session for today, Vice Chair West.
That record time, moving right along. With that, we are adjourned.